Hi, Marie-Emmanuelle. Nice
Hey.
to have you here today.
Thank you.
For some of you who have seen previous videos, we have done a biography video about the quite amazing career of Marie-Emmanuelle. So I will put those in the show notes, and I really recommend you to look at it. It's quite unusual and extraordinary in some ways. So if you have a few minutes, it's a worthwhile show. Today, our focus will be a little bit on crisis management. Marie-Emmanuelle, and which you would get from the video, is a specialist in some sense on crisis management. And she has learned crisis management, I believe, through her career in the military or the Navy, on normal boats and aircraft carriers, and then later on in the management of nuclear plants. So she was there where in this area, obviously crisis can be something very dramatic, maybe even much more dramatic than in cybersecurity. So I should say she learned the hard way this area. And today I think I would like to talk to her about applying some of these concepts also to cybersecurity, where sometimes we only believe all you need is a laptop and an internet connection or network connection to solve the problem, and a few people who are willing to work 24/7. That's about it. Yeah. So maybe as a little introduction and to set the scene for the Marie-Emmanuelle, I've been involved in a number of, I would say, crisis situations. I'm not talking here about an incident which lasts a couple of hours. I think we can handle that very well. And sometimes you have an incident which happens, at the wrong time. It can happen. It starts in the evening and it goes on through the night, so you have to work the whole night with the same team. Yeah. Sometimes you have an incident which can last very long. I remember when we were struggling with WannaCry. It took us a full week to solve the problem, and we followed the sun, so we had to shift the incident management to a different time zone at the end of every 8 hours, which is also a big one. But if it goes on for a long time, how to actually keep the team working in a good way. I remember also in the early 2011-12, when we had the anonymous attacks, we had to pen test and secure ourselves against these attacks. And we realized that we had to secure several thousand websites within 2 or 3 weeks. And we had to be doing that in a reasonably synchronized manner. So we worked a whole month, I think 3 weeks to do that. And we had, what I still remember, we had synchronization meetings between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. in the morning every other day. And later on, a similar exercise happened, yeah. I can guarantee you in all the examples I quoted, after a few hours, it's not business as usual anymore. Yeah. Many of the things which Marie-Emmanuelle is going to talk to us about will be applicable also to cybersecurity, even though we still believe in our head, because we don't have physical harm or material damage or something like that all we need as well is going to be just a laptop, and maybe we avoid that we have some data breach somewhere or some other trouble. I mean, obviously, we know with ransomware, your whole company can stop. But I think we have to be ready to be in a crisis at least for a week, and with one team or multiple teams, depending on the size of your company. And I think all the things Marie-Emmanuelle will share with us is also applicable to cybersecurity, even though it's not yet our common acceptance, if I may say so. Sorry for this long introduction, Marie-Emmanuelle. I think I'll hand over the mic to you. And I'm again, thank you so much for being willing to share your understanding. And please also note that Marie-Emmanuelle is a coach for teams, and whatever we're going to talk about here, if you have a particular situation, I think she is the right person who, through her consulting operation, can help you in customizing what we're going to describe in more general terms here to your problem, or to your management problem or crisis management which you would like to prepare. So we'll put Marie-Emmanuelle's references in the show notes. So don't hesitate to contact her. You will not regret, in any way asking for her support. So finally, over to you, Marie-Emmanuelle.
Thanks a lot, Guy. Thanks. Indeed, team performance and excellence is very what activates me, and I love working with them in order to achieve the best of them. And handling a crisis is kind of good exercise to know what they are capable of. And I want to jump right into what you've said. If you handle a crisis and if you work in emergency preparedness and response, if you're working in a crisis and actually you don't believe that there is a major risk for individual or for your organization, don't work in that field. Because even if there is no danger, direct harm, etc., the consequences of any crisis, that's what the verb come from, these consequences will harm someone, some way, someday. So this belief that there is no virtual crisis, that there are real consequences, they can be money consequences, that can be reputation consequences, that can be operational consequences, etc., they are always very, very real. And there is no little crisis. What I've been working for are really major crises because they are well known by everybody, and everybody is afraid of this type of crisis that can harm yourself, and crisis that can nuclear crisis are especially in France are very important because we have a lot of nuclear power plants in France. So everybody is very aware that these have to be handled, and the nuclear risk is very present. But it's really a trick. It's like going on a plane and being afraid of the plane, but you have also to be afraid when you go to make a ride in your car, in your bike, when you take any type of risk. So the cybersecurity risk may have a lot of medias between the consequences and the sensation you have of them, but they can harm the same way.
I mean, obviously, we will ask the question, do you need to select all your team based on the ability to perform well in a crisis, or can you train any existing team to perform well in the period of a crisis?
That's a good question. The ideal is to would be to select, but you need a very large range of people in order to perform a crisis, because there are two or three types of dynamics in a crisis. The first that is really situation, and the second one is like a semi-marathon, how we can deal with the playbook, with the immediate stuff, etc. And the very long term, as you mentioned, it's situation, and that requires other qualities. So with any team, you can manage to select within the team some people and make them realize what there are the strengths, what are their weaknesses, what and where they can be and when they can be useful, and make everybody realize that, and performing any crisis with mostly any kind of people.
But I assume that I understand. So there's multiple uh, roles in some sense to play, and I know from the discussion with you that obviously training and training and training will transform even someone who may not be natively, I should could say, prepared to really get the right reflex and to react in a good way. Would you say so? Or does the I think that the training is more important than the having a perfectly selected person who is able to resist a bit better a crisis than another one. Would you say that the training is more important than anything?
Yes, it's exactly like you said. The training is more important because the talented people may freeze or may have some unknown reactions anytime, anywhere. And even those people have to train. What we want is people that are conscious and aware of their principal and secondary and tertiary way to handle a crisis, and people that have that ability to recognize in their own behavior what must be leveraged and what must be passed over. And that's what training is about. If you have some talented people that perform on their best day, that's okay. But even the most talented people can have bad days and can have their own fears. And so that's not about talent. If you have the choice, you choose talented people and you train them. But the training, work and training is the best part. It's like when you want to perform a certain way, it's the same way in sports and in music, etc. You take talented people, but it's mostly about work, everyday work and training, what we call in the army the drilling.
I think what you say is two things. One is through the drill, you come to know yourself in some sense, because a crisis is not a normal situation for a normal person. So you have to learn what does it mean, be in such kind of crisis, and to know how to control your mind or to control your fears. And that's one thing you have to train yourself. The second one is training with others, because as you said, it's a team, so different roles. How do you communicate? How do you manage together in a period of crisis? Yeah. I have one additional question: is if you do that for hours and hours, ultimately you become tired. So does that play a role, or again, the training will help you to overcome your that situation?
Again, the training. It's all about training, but it's different training. In the first part, you must learn how do you react with your limbic system. How do you automatically react with your inner protective system, and that impedes you to think. And it's about what you are good at, and it's mostly about what you can't do, and admitting what you can't do and what some other people can do for you, and what the little steps, the little stuff you can do to not to be so unuseful. It's just about this, trying to and being able to perform in that situation. But it's the very first part of the crisis. The second part of the crisis, okay, you've passed the situation and you are very activated by adrenaline. So you're not tired. So it's just about learning how to think, how to work, communicate together, take decision, trusting the playbooks, etc., etc. And in the third part, the most difficult, it's about optimizing your potential, learning how to read, how to know your own tiredness, how to optimize it, how to sleep is very important. And for them, the optimization, the potential optimization techniques are very important, and that they really come from the French army, but now they are spread all over the organizations.
I think we can put probably a few, put some information in the show notes with some bullet points. Here are the important parts. But every team and what you have to secure is very different than how many resources you have and how big the challenges are. So I certainly recommend for people who have an immediate need, and I think most of us have, to also get in touch with you to see, whether a customized, let's say, approach or training or workshop can be organized. Also, we have a tool which is called Flexible IR, which is a kind of incident response tool, an incident response playbook management tool, which also has some drills, which allows you to prepare for different situations or different types of problems. So that's a complementary. I think the psychological training preparation and having exact steps to follow for different scenarios is a good thing. So we will put the contact information in the show notes, so people can get back to you. I think there's more things to talk about, so maybe we'll have to do a part 2 to this video. So, but in the meantime, I really would like to thank you for having shared
Thank you, Guy.
this.
Thank you, Guy.
Thank you.